Welcome to Fright Fix. My name's Suk.
And my name's Celia.
Celia, episode 2.
Woohoo.
How are you feeling? How are you doing?
Good. I don't want to say I'm excited at the beginning of every episode, but I still am.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm very glad we watched this movie and been looking forward to talking to you about it.
Yeah, it's something a bit different, I think.
Absolutely. So, this week we have a slightly shorter episode for you. A quick fix, if you will.
Find your Fright Fix anywhere you listen to podcasts and follow us on social media at Fright Fix. Before we continue, I do want to give a spoiler warning. So if you haven't already watched the film, go and watch it and come back to listen to us.
So this week, we watched 2018's Greta, directed by Neil Jordan, who's famous for The Crying Game and Mona Lisa. And it's written by Ray Wright, and it stars Chloë Grace Moretz as Frances and Isabelle Huppert as Greta.
Greta is a psychological thriller. Chloë Moretz plays a sweet, naive young woman living in New York. Her name's Frances. She doesn't think twice about returning the handbag she finds on a train to its owner. The owner is Greta, Isabelle Huppert, a lonely, slightly eccentric French woman with a love for classical music. Having recently lost her mother, Frances grows closer to widowed Greta. The two become fast friends, but Greta's maternal charms begin to dissolve and grow increasingly disturbing as Frances discovers that nothing in Greta's life is what it seems. Greta ends up kidnapping Frances and locking her away in a secret room in her house. She has done this to girls before, trying to create surrogate children after losing her own daughter to suicide due to the abuse that she endured at the hands of Greta. After Greta kills a private detective looking for Frances, it's Frances's best friend Erica who eventually finds and saves her.
So, Celia, what were your overall thoughts on the film?
So I keep flitting between really liking it and really not liking it. Wow. And when I was thinking about this podcast episode, I did have a few more things that I wasn't too happy about than I did that I was happy about. But I feel like I wouldn't be giving this film justice by saying that I didn't like it, because I enjoyed it. And I think that is part of the film's experience. I'll keep it that for now, and I'll go into more detail later. But what did you think?
I'm actually really interested to hear what you have to say after that introduction. So, I mean, generally, I like the movie. I don't know if my expectations were just super low, but I kind of walked away fairly pleased with it. It was small scale. Character motivations were fairly clear. The character journeys were reasonably understandable and not totally out of the realm of believability. You know, there was a small cast. I think there were like 5 characters, if I recall. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was originally written as a small play or something.
Yeah, it could work well, couldn't it, on stage? Because there are only a few different places that they are in Greta's house, on the train, kind of at the restaurant.
Yeah, and at France's apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally 4 locations.
So, Suk, what did you think of the acting and casting choice?
Casting Isabelle Huppert as Greta was a stroke of genius, I thought. She genuinely made me believe she was a lunatic. Definitely if there was a star attraction of this movie, it'd be her performance, I'd say. She initially seems like a normal lady, but very quickly you start to suspect something creepy is going on. And I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was, but I think the moment we see the bags, the handbags in the cupboard, that's when, it was way worse than what I expected. I don't know, I just felt dread. And but generally, in terms of cast, I personally couldn't fault any of their performances.
No, not at all. I think I took a long time to think that Greta was actually stalking Frances, which I think it was because she was such a good actress. I thought, she's not being super creepy about it. Sure. I don't know whether I thought for ages that she was just, kind of obsessive, but in a harmless way. Obviously, I kind of knew what was coming up, but I think because she was so good at portraying someone who could be passed as a normal person, she could kind of put this mask on and say, I'm just here because I love you and I just look after you, and I, kind of gaslighting her and things. I was like, I'm not really sure where it's going after that. But yeah, I think she did steal the show as it went on. her character developed a lot. She was dancing in scenes and she was getting angry, and we were seeing much more of her character play out. I think the only thing that I didn't like, and I think it's two things, because one of the things I loved about the film was the fact that it wasn't just boy meets girl, boy gets obsessed, boy kidnaps girl, the end, which happens so much. It's more of this kind of maternal love and the obsession between a mother and daughter. And I just find it really refreshing when there are relationships playing out that aren't sexual or in a kind of romantic way, because we see it all the time. So I love that.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
But at the same time, that power dynamic is one of the reasons why there was a little bit of unbelievability in the story for me, only because there were scenes where I thought Frances could definitely overpower Greta just because she was a small woman. And I think, so the reasons why it plays well is because it chooses a different type of relationship. But how it doesn't play well is that in my head, there were elements of, you could grab her right now and you are stronger. She's bigger, she's taller than Greta. And you wouldn't have that if it was a male with a female, just because of body, strength and build and things like that. So there isn't that kind of powerful physical aspect to it. It's much more psychological.
Yeah.
And I completely get that she is so terrified that she doesn't want to, stand up to her. But part of me is like, oh, if you just grab her.
Yeah, because Greta's like a middle-aged lady, and Frances is like this young girl. She's like cycling around, she's got energy. Yeah. You know what, I didn't even think about that until you just mentioned it right now. There you go, another episode. You've opened my eyes once again.
Well, I always think about what you would do in that situation, or what I would do in that situation. I don't know whether I'm just not an angry person, but I just wanted to be, grab her and put her in the box myself and, lock the door right at the beginning. Because there was a scene where when Greta opens the box for the first time with Frances inside, Frances isn't tied to anything. She's just really scared. And Greta's kind of leaning over her. But part of me was just like, just grab her neck and pull her in and do something.
Yeah,
obviously she was very scared, and I get that.
She doesn't know what Greta's capable of. And I think where if Frances was any other character in this world that the movie's set in, maybe they would have overpowered Greta. But I think because Frances's mother had just died,
very true,
and I think that would probably debilitated Frances in a way that maybe another character would not have been weakened.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much that has to play in it, but maybe she was kind of almost wanting to be a bit more submissive.
That's a really good point, actually.
Possibly. I've only just thought that right now after what you've just said.
No, definitely. I think that's completely plausible, and you never know what you do in that situation until you were in it. Let's just hope we never are.
Agreed.
Did you have a favorite scene?
On the edge of my seat when Frances was drugged in her apartment, and when Greta kind of walked in and Frances is blurry-eyed, just making out the silhouette of Greta, and then Greta essentially kidnaps Frances and takes her home and locks her in the box. And I was like, wow, okay, they're actually doing this. But then it kind of snaps to Frances waking up and it was all just a dream. And I was kind of a bit furious at that point.
So was I.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, really? You're going to be that kind of movie? You're going to chicken out? Like, come on, man, let's stick to it. Go to that place where Disney would hesitate to go to.
Yeah.
And but then as the movie progressed, there's a scene where I think Frances goes into the lift, and then the walls start shaking and enclose her and squish her. Yeah. And then it cuts to Frances waking up in the box. And I was like, yeah. They didn't chicken out. Like, it's a bait and switch. They tricked me. So
tricked me completely as well. I thought I felt so cheated when she woke up from her dream. I felt like we were in a year 9 essay class where everybody's creative writing ends with, and they woke up and it was all a dream. Yeah. I have to admit, I then felt cheated because I thought that it was all a dream, and then it wasn't, and I was like, oh God, I can't figure out what this film's trying to do.
They're playing with your emotions.
They are playing with my emotions, and I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Manipulated, used.
Exactly. But it does give you that sense of relief, doesn't it, when she wakes up from the dream, even though you might think, oh, that's just a kind of boring way of making the film progress. But I think it makes you go through a roller coaster of emotions of like, okay, she wasn't actually drugged. Oh my God, she actually was drugged.
Yeah.
And I do think, again, if you were in that situation, you had this dream and you woke up and you were actually there. It's the reverse of what you want. I don't mind having a nightmare because I know I can wake up at the end of it, but having it the other way around, no, thank you.
Did you have a favorite scene?
I did. It was the final scene for me. It was when Frances and Erica, so Erica is Frances's best friend who comes to save her. They lock Greta in the box, as they call it, and they stick an Eiffel Tower ornament through the lock so that she can't get out or unjam it. Yeah. And Greta, who was unconscious, wakes up and starts wiggling the box, and you can see the Eiffel Tower kind of teetering on the edge of falling out. Yeah. So part of me thought, please find an actual lock and don't just leave the Eiffel Tower in there, because it definitely is not going to stay there. Yeah. But for what it represents, I thought it was really clever because Greta pretends to be French. I think she's actually Hungarian. Yeah. But she pretends to be French throughout the film as part of her persona. What draws other women in is that she has this kind of elegance about her and a mystique about the character that she's created for herself. And so they kind of lock her in, or kind of trap her in her own lies by using this Eiffel Tower to trap her in the box, which I thought was very interesting. I did like that. I mean, this is such a stretch, but I do wonder whether they called Frances because it kind of sounds like French. Frances. I hope that's just a bad pun, but yeah, I think that was a very metaphorical ending. And also the fact that it kind of keeps you on your toes because you think she could probably get out of that box if she tried.
It's really funny you say that, because there wasn't really anything that I disliked in the movie. But it's that damn ending. And I wasn't quite sure how I felt about that ending. And it's like when the girls locked Greta up in the box, like I understood the sentiment, what they were going for. But, they wanted to give her a taste of her own medicine, but they didn't lock her in properly. And I remember watching the movie and I out loud said, the Eiffel Tower isn't going to work. Like what were they thinking? Like there's a part of me thinks that that's it. They thought they'd saved the day. That's it. Yeah. They're going to carry on with their lives. But then I hope to think that they were just going to go and call the police or something.
Yeah, I'd hope so. But it did seem they kind of walked away and they seemed a bit more calm. So it was like, right, we're done. We've finished. Yeah.
What they should have done was locked her in the box and then thrown that lime or whatever into the box behind her alive. Look. That's what they should have done with that ending. Greta could have got, Frances could have got her revenge.
Her revenge at the end. I think you're turning it from a psychological thriller to a gory horror by the end.
Yeah, and they should have shown the lime like disintegrating her skin. That's the catharsism that I wanted.
Okay, well, I'm never going to cross you. I mean, I was never planning on locking you in a box, but now I'm never going to say a bad word.
And you quietly shuffle that box away.
Yeah. Yeah, it did feel a little bit, I mean, even just I don't know if ergonomics is the right word, of the size of the Eiffel Tower. I mean, it was almost falling out even before she'd started wiggling it. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything you didn't like about the movie?
I suppose the reason that I said at the beginning that I had quite a few things that I didn't like about it wasn't anything to do with the acting or the directing. It was more just some of my questions were never answered around the story. And also that at some points the story was a little bit predictable in terms of a kidnapping story. Yeah. And I thought that the bag thing, as in she has multiple of these bags that she leaves on trains for women to find to give back to her, I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was such a good twist.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they did show that in the trailer because I remember seeing that. And so when I went into the film, I wasn't, right. Yeah, it would be so much better if you'd never seen the trailer.
I hate it when trailers do that. They seem to do it more and more these days where they're just like, you might just show us. There should be a rule, and I've thought of this, where anything shown in the trailer can only be from the first third of the movie.
It would make so much sense.
Yeah,
And it
'cause
would save a lot of films because, yeah, I already knew that was coming. So it was like the one thing that I thought was really good about the story, I'd already known. So it was a little bit
that's a real
deflating.
shame. Why did you watch the trailer?
It was ages ago. It was
Oh,
ages ago I watched it. And I thought, oh, this looks like a really good film because it has a really good twist.
yeah.
And I always think that with those films, they're showing you the least of the twists, if you know what I mean. Like there's going to be so much more in the film that they could show you this bag thing.
Yeah.
But knowing that that was the twist, it's like, why would you put that in the trailer?
Oh man, if there was ever a special edition of this movie released, and you know how some special editions have like arty farty box art, it would just be Greta with that bag on the front cover. That's what it should be.
Yeah,
it's such an iconic thing in the movie, and then it was spoiled in the trailer. What a stupid decision.
I know. So that kind of made me, think, oh, now the story is quite predictable because there isn't any twist.
Oh man,
I do think it's not your fault, sir. I could handle it.
Feel responsible. I'm going to call Mr. Hollywood and get them to sort it out.
Yeah, stop putting the twists in your trailers. We'll all have a better time. Yeah, and like I said, I had a few questions that I just didn't really understand. I mean, my first one was, why can't the police help her? I mean, when Greta is standing across the road and she's kind of staring through the window, and then the police come and they're like, oh, she's not doing anything wrong. But she's harassing her. And I feel like in real life, I don't know, maybe I'm just overly sensitive, but it feels like they could have done much more.
Yeah, that bit just wanted to that series of events just wanted to make me scream. It's like and you know the weird thing is, I bet in real life that's how it is. I bet there's very little grounds for the police to do anything. The police are probably afraid that they're going to get sued or something, but or whatever. I mean, whatever. Actually, I won't get into that. That's a whole other can of beans. But sorry, go.
No, you do hear stories about people who have had stalkers and they've had no help. And I suppose that is what it's showing. It's just, it seemed really obvious that there was something wrong. And it only took until she kind of had a breakdown, a meltdown in her restaurant.
Oh, that was a car crash in slow motion, wasn't it? I couldn't believe it was happening.
And it gives me flashbacks to working as a waitress and somebody saying that the wine's off or that I didn't like the wine. Nobody's thrown the glass on the floor, but
nobody stalked you either, no?
No one stalked me yet. So yeah, that was one of the questions I had. So the other question that I had was, when Erica dresses up as a model from Texas and she goes to Greta's house to try and get Frances back and pretends to be somebody who's found her bag on the train. Erica knew that Greta had kidnapped Frances, but she comes by herself to try and save Frances. She doesn't call the police. She doesn't bring backup of any kind. She just goes by herself. I mean, at that point, you know that this woman is delusional and very, very dangerous. Why she came by herself, I don't understand.
Unless she did go to the police and the police ignored her as well.
Or even friends or something, because there was that scene where it was she'd revealed herself to Greta and said, haha, it's actually me. I'm here to save Frances. And then they had a bit of a tussle and you kind of thought for a second, oh, is Greta gonna overwhelm her as well and lock her up with Frances? At that point, it would have been great if she had a bit of backup that she could call and somebody else could come in and help. I suppose, for tension, I get it, but part of me was just like, oh, again, if I was in that situation, I would not go by myself.
I mean, when they were showing that girl on the train who picks up the second bag, like I would never have guessed that it was her friend. I don't know. I
thought that was really good.
Yeah, furthest from my thoughts. Yeah.
And I was getting really metaphorical about it, and I was going to speak about how the fact that they didn't show the face of the new girl because it was just one of many, and there was this big, but it was actually because it was the face of Erica, and so they never showed her from the face on. And I was prepared to talk about all this metaphorical stuff, and then I realized no, it's just because it was Erica and you couldn't see her.
Yeah, that was a nice surprise. Yeah,
it was. So, did you pick up any trivia or production notes from Greta?
No, not very much. There was only one interesting thing that I found about the movie. And I don't know if this says a lot about the movie, but so the film is set in New York.
Yeah.
But the entire thing was filmed in Ireland.
Really?
Yep, which is where Neil Jordan, the director, is from. He's Irish. And the train scenes were filmed in Toronto. And I was fooled. I couldn't believe what I was reading, to be honest.
I did not expect you to say that. I mean, I've never been to New York, so I don't actually know what it looks like. But
it looks like they did a pretty good job, to me. They
really
big time, yeah.
Why? I wonder why they didn't film in New York.
Probably expensive. I mean, maybe the director, I don't know, maybe they got some kind of funding, Irish Film Fund or something. I'm not quite sure. Maybe, don't know, maybe some kind of tax reason.
Well, it just shows the magic of cinema, doesn't it?
Yeah, they did
you
a pretty
could be
good
in
job.
one place and pretend to be another, and we would all be fooled. I don't know if a hardcore, not New Yorkian, New Yorker, yeah, sounds bad.
A New Yorkian, yep, we'll stick with that.
A hardcore New Yorkian would know the difference. But yeah, I was completely fooled. We hope you enjoyed this month's Fright Fix. Join us next month as we'll explore a new horror film. We will be posting the movie a few days before the podcast episode is released on our social media, so be sure to follow us at Fright Fix if you want to watch the film ahead of time.
If you would like to send us a message or want us to cover a scary movie on an upcoming episode, please feel free to contact us on Instagram or Twitter, or email us at podcast@frightfix.com.
See you next time.